When we were young, we wrote with pencils and used erasers to correct our mistakes. However, as we grew up, we switched to pens, which leave a permanent mark on paper. This transition reflects a life philosophy. Even the smallest mistake can have serious consequences. 7 wildlife protection officers learned this lesson the hard way. They made a critical error that changed their lives forever. Let's dive into their story and explore the consequences they faced in the Siberian wilderness in January. A place of deep silence, where endless frozen expanses are interrupted only by patches of dense forest and rare rocky outcrops. The snow-covered landscape, sparkling under a pale sun, hides a dangerous secret. On January 9th, a Russian grizzly bear, a creature both majestic and deadly, roamed this land. A group of experienced wildlife officers ventured into the harsh Siberian forest on a routine mission to relocate the bear. But what happened that day forever changed the way such operations are approached. The team was led by Anton, a seasoned officer with over a decade of experience in wildlife protection. The group also included Victor, a tranquilizer specialist, Dmitry Sorokin, a veterinarian, Yuri Karpov, a tracker, Pavel Mikov, the driver, and Andrei Valov, the youngest member of the team, eager to prove himself. Their mission was simple but dangerous. Locate and relocate a bear recently spotted on the outskirts of a small Siberian village, likely in search of food after its natural habitat was disturbed by illegal logging. In 2 powerful vehicles equipped with tranquilizer guns, safety gear, and a reinforced cage for bear transport, they arrived early in the morning at the edge of the forest. A sharp, heavy air warned of an impending snowstorm. Their plan was to sedate the bear, place it in the transport cage, and release it far away from human settlements. The animal's den was hidden deep in the trees, partially covered by snow and underbrush. Caution was paramount. Their breath clouded in the cold air, and boots crunched softly on the snow. Ivan, another experienced officer, ordered the team to spread out strategically to block the bear's escape routes. The atmosphere was tense but focused. They had done this many times before. As the team prepared for the operation, the driver's door of one of the vehicles was accidentally left ajar. A small oversight, but one that would prove fatal. Unbeknownst to them, the noise had agitated the bear. Suddenly, it emerged from the thicket. Its massive form against the snowy backdrop was terrifying. Victor was the first to spot it and immediately warned the others. Agitated and aggressive, the bear charged toward the open vehicle. Realizing the danger, the team scrambled to react, but it was too late. Incredibly fast and ferocious, the bear caught them off guard. It reached the vehicle in seconds, tearing through the seats with its powerful claws, drawn by the scent inside. As one team member reached for a tranquilizer gun in the trunk, he became the bear's first victim. Its massive jaws clamped onto his shoulder, pulling him to the ground. The team, though terrified, rushed to help. Ivan and Victor fired tranquilizer darts, but their initial doses had little effect. The bear's thick fur and raging adrenaline rendered them ineffective. Alexei and Dmitry tried to assist Pavel, but the bear struck with terrifying force, shredding their protective gear with its claws. Amid screams and roars, the snow turned crimson. The bear then turned its fury toward the remaining officers. Yuri and Andrei, positioned farther from the vehicle, attempted to flank and distract the bear. Andrei managed to hit it in the side with a tranquilizer dart. The creature staggered, but before Yuri could act, the bear attacked again. The sheer ferocity left no time for coordinated action. One by one, the officers fell, unable to match the raw power of the beast. The bear, driven by primal instinct, delivered quick and devastating blows. The attack lasted only a few minutes. When the bear finally retreated into the dense forest, silence returned to the clearing, broken only by the wind and falling snow. The bodies of the 7 officers lay scattered. Their gear was destroyed. The mission, tragically, had failed. Discovered hours later, the scene shocked the Russian conservation community. The scale of the tragedy was unprecedented, prompting serious questions. Researchers concluded that the bear's heightened aggression was likely due to habitat disturbance and stress caused by humans near its den. The open vehicle door and the smell of food only escalated the situation, creating a perfect storm of events that led to the deadly attack. The loss of Ivan, Victor, Alexei, Dmitry, and their comrades was a devastating blow to their families, colleagues, and the entire conservation field. Vigils were held in their honor, and their names became a solemn reminder of the risks faced by those protecting wildlife. The incident led to major safety protocol changes, including mandatory double checks of all vehicles and equipment, stronger tranquilizers, and enhanced training for officers. Experts later confirmed that the bear's attack was not due to malice. It was a tragic combination of human error and natural instinct. The forest, as unforgiving as it is beautiful, had reminded humans of their place in the natural order. Though their deaths were tragic, the sacrifice of these officers led to improved safety in future wildlife operations. In the States, there are dense forests, rocky outcrops, and steep descents that offer a challenge and thrill to mountain bikers. Kevin had ridden these trails many times before. He was confident in his abilities and knew the area well. But that day, nature had other plans. It was unpredictable and indifferent to his intentions. Kevin pedaled hard as the trail wound through groves of pine and aspen trees. The sounds of nature, the chirping birds, the rustling leaves in the wind, and the occasional snap of branches underfoot, filled him with joy. He relished the solitude, the rhythmic crunch of his tires on the dirt path, and the adrenaline that surged through him on sharp turns and steep descents. The Tito Ridge was known for its technical sections, but also beloved for its thrilling recreational possibilities. The isolated terrain, which passed through completely bare areas, warned riders to carry bear spray and make noise on the trails. However, Kevin chose to travel light, aiming for speed. The descent was narrow and surrounded by dense underbrush. Kevin leaned forward as his tires kicked up dirt and small stones. The wind rushed against his face and he felt that familiar thrill of control balanced on the edge of chaos as he sped down the slope. But the thick forest ahead suddenly seemed strangely altered, and then he saw it, a massive figure moving through the brush. Before he could react, a grizzly bear appeared on the trail no more than 20 feet ahead. It was enormous, its shaggy brown fur bristling as it turned to face Kevin. The bear's dark eyes locked on him as it reared slightly onto its hind legs, unmistakably asserting its dominance. Time seemed to stop as Kevin realized he was face to face with one of nature's most dangerous predators. There was no time to think. The bear dropped to all fours and charged. Kevin's instincts kicked in. He gripped the handlebars tightly and pedaled furiously, pushing his bike to its limit. He tried to outrun the bear, but the grizzly was faster than he ever imagined. Its powerful strides shook the earth, and Kevin could feel the ground tremble under the weight of his pursuer. He was breathless, the bear's deep growls growing louder. The narrow trail, littered with roots and rocks, left no room for mistakes. Kevin swerved around a jagged boulder, his heart pounding, as the shadow of the bear loomed just behind him. Desperation fueled him, but the rough terrain worked against him. As he rounded another sharp turn, a hidden path disrupted his balance. He lost control and crashed into a tree, thrown from his bike onto the forest floor. The impact stunned and disoriented him. He barely had time to register the pain in his shoulder and sighed before the bear was upon him. It roared and slashed. Desperately, Kevin's fingers found the frame of his bike. He held it between himself and the bear like a makeshift shield. The Grizzly charged again, its claws scraping the metal. Seizing a moment of hesitation, Kevin scrambled backward, trying to widen the distance. But the bear attacked again. Its jaws snapped just inches from his leg. With adrenaline coursing through him, Kevin swung the bike frame at the bear. It was a clumsy, but determined move. The blow startled the bear, causing it to pause. Kevin took the chance, rising to his feet and clutching the bike frame like a lifeline. His injured arm hung limp, blood soaking the forest floor. But the bear hesitated. Finally, with a final growl, it turned and retreated into the underbrush, leaving Kevin alone. Kevin stood trembling. His breath came in ragged gasps as the forest around him fell into eerie silence. He saw the trail ahead and forced himself to move, knowing he needed help. His bike was damaged and he left it behind. Every agonizing step was driven by a primal need to survive. Hours later, Kevin stumbled onto a nearby trail. His vision was blurred, his strength gone. A group of hikers found him lying on the ground, bloody and barely conscious. They called for help, and Kevin was airlifted to the nearest hospital, where doctors treated his wounds. They noted that his quick thinking and use of the bike frame likely saved his life. Though Kevin was left with physical scars that would never fully heal, the emotional trauma was just as severe. In the months that followed, he battled nightmares and a deepened sense of vulnerability. Yet Kevin chose to grow from the experience. After facing such danger on the trail, he began sharing his story to raise awareness about the risks of mountain biking in bear country. He spoke publicly and worked with local organizations, advocating for safer trail signage and bear-proof food storage. His efforts led to meaningful changes on popular routes in Wyoming, where new measures were put in place to reduce the risk of similar incidents. Looking back on that fateful day, Kevin often reflected on the fragile balance between humans and nature. He realized that the wild was neither cruel nor kind. It simply was. His encounter with the grizzly served as a stark reminder of nature's raw power and unpredictability, a lesson from the world he dared to call home. Equipped with standard gear, radio, first aid kit, and bear spray holstered at her side, Clara's route wound through a rugged trail where she periodically stopped to check for signs of wildlife activity. Tracks, droppings, and claw marks on tree trunks indicated a bear had recently passed through, but she didn't immediately notice it. Clara's steps crunched softly on the gravel path as she ventured deeper into the forest, enjoying the tranquility of her surroundings. About an hour into her patrol, Clara noticed movement through a gap between the trees. In the distance, she saw a black bear clumsily walking along the creek's edge. Its powerful silhouette stood out sharply against the sunlight. It was larger than she had expected, and its glossy fur shimmered with every step. The bear seemed calm, sniffing around, searching for food. It was a rare opportunity to observe such a magnificent animal up close. In her training, Clara had always emphasized the importance of keeping a safe distance from wildlife. But in that moment, the bear's instincts seemed to fail him. He showed no sign of worry or awareness of her presence. Clara reached for her camera, eager to capture her field experience. She moved slowly, seeking a better angle, gradually getting closer to the bear until it was within range. The bear continued foraging, its ears twitching and head lifting occasionally, body tensing when it finally became aware of the human nearby. Suddenly, its dark eyes locked onto Clara, and the air grew tense. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The bear let out a deep, guttural sound that echoed through the forest, then charged. Its enormous paws carried it forward with terrifying speed. Clara barely had time to react. She stumbled back, but its massive weight knocked her off her feet. Her head hit a rock, and darkness consumed her consciousness. Meanwhile, another park ranger, Ian Fuller, was patrolling along the creek when he heard the crashing noise and a piercing roar. He rushed to help, but it was already too late. The forest silence was shattered by a sharp, desperate scream that sent chills down his spine. Ian sprinted toward the source of the sound, his boots thudding against the uneven ground. When he arrived, he was met with a horrifying scene. The bear stood over Clara's motionless body, clawing the earth and breathing heavily. Ian quickly assessed the situation, weighing his options. He knew firing at the bear should be a last resort. It could escalate the conflict. Instead, he raised his rifle and fired a warning shot into the air. The sharp crack echoed through the forest, startling the bear. Perked up its ears, registering the new threat. Ian shouted and waved his arms, trying to appear larger to scare the animal off. The bear snorted again, its breath visible in the cold air. Then, it turned and retreated into the dense underbrush. Silence returned, except for Ian's ragged breathing. He rushed to Clara's side, heart sinking at the sight of her injuries. Blood trickled from a deep gash on her forehead, and her uniform was torn where the bear's claws had raked her torso. With shaking hands, Ian radioed for medical assistance, his voice trembling as he relayed their location. Paramedics arrived within the hour, struggling through the rugged terrain. Clara was carefully stabilized and transported to the hospital, where a team of surgeons worked tirelessly to save her. But later that evening, the brave Clara succumbed to her injuries, leaving behind only the memory of her courage and strength. Those mourning her grieved with boundless love for the wild nature she so dearly cherished. This tragedy shook everyone. An investigation conducted by the Park Service and the local community revealed that the close proximity of the woman to the bear triggered its protective instincts. It became a harsh reminder of the inevitable dangers that await when encountering wild animals in their natural habitat. The incident drew attention to the importance of following safety rules, respecting the boundaries of wild creatures, and maintaining a safe distance at all times. The dense wilderness of Montana stretched in all directions, like a tapestry of tall pines, jagged mountains, and wide, deserted roads. It was a land of untouched beauty and solitude, where nature reigned supreme and humans were merely guests. On a clear autumn morning in 2007, truck driver Dave Thompson was driving along a deserted highway. His trailer was loaded with food destined for a faraway town. The road ahead was empty, and only the sound of the engine broke the silence. A silence Dave had grown used to over many years traveling remote routes. His life, much like the endless roads he traveled, was marked by resilience and endurance. When he had the chance to stop, stretch his legs, and enjoy the beauty of the landscapes he passed through, he felt at peace. That morning, as the day moved closer to noon, Dave decided to take a break. He spotted a small clearing by the side of the road and brought his truck to a stop. The hissing of the brakes cut through the stillness. Climbing down from the cab, he stretched his arms and shoulders, his boots crunching on the gravel. The air was cool and fresh, filled with the subtle scent of pine needles and damp earth. He didn't notice the barely perceptible shift in the atmosphere. There was an unnatural silence in the forest, something Dave had no way of sensing. Nearby, hidden close to his truck, a grizzly bear lay in wait. Its keen sense of smell had drawn it to the vehicle. With the cold approaching, this massive creature with thick fur and sharp claws roamed the area in search of food. The scent from Dave's trailer had piqued its interest. Intrigued, the bear crept closer from the woods and froze, heightening its senses. Unaware of the danger, Dave turned his back to the trees and climbed into the cab. He was enjoying a cup of coffee from his thermos, taking in a short moment of peace after a long journey. But when Dave moved, The bear perceived his action as a threat. His territorial instincts overpowered any hesitation. In a split second, and without warning, the bear lunged. Dave turned just in time to see a massive creature charging at him. Its size and speed were a blur of terror. He barely had time to react before the bear collided with him, knocking him to the ground. The bear wasted no time. Its primal instincts told it to defend what it considered its territory. Its claws tore at Dave's side, shredding his jacket. A scream rang out, echoing in the wilderness. Desperation consumed him. Through a haze of pain and adrenaline, Dave's hand felt around for something, anything, to defend himself. His fingers closed around the cold steel of a crowbar he had left leaning against the truck's tire. Summoning all his strength, he swung the improvised weapon and struck the bear on its shoulder. The animal paused, stunned. Without wasting time, Dave swung again and struck it across the snout. The grizzly growled, its eyes wide with rage and confusion. Blood dripped from its face. Took a step back, reassessing its prey. Dave managed to get to his feet, trembling, his breath shallow. He leaned against the side of the truck, still gripping the bloodied crowbar. But the bear wasn't done. It lunged again, striking Dave with a massive paw. The force sent him sprawling onto the ground. His head hit the gravel. Stars danced before his eyes, and his grip on the crowbar loosened. The bear hovered over him, its hot breath filling the air. For a moment, it seemed like the fight was over. Then, just as suddenly as it had attacked, the bear stopped. Perhaps it was the lingering pain from Dave's blows, or the distant rumble of an approaching vehicle. Something caused the creature to retreat. With a low growl, it turned and ran back into the forest. Its massive figure disappeared into the shadows. Dave's broken body was a testament to the brutal attack. Blood spread around him, staining the gravel. His breathing was shallow. A passing motorist, alarmed by the strange sight of a parked truck, stopped. He dropped to his knees beside Dave. His face turned pale as he saw the extent of the injuries. Emergency services were immediately called. They rushed to stabilize Dave, but the damage was too severe. He lost consciousness from the blood loss and wounds to his side and legs. Despite their best efforts, Dave died from his injuries before he could be taken to the hospital. News of the attack shocked the public. Authorities confirmed that the bear's behavior was driven by hunger and the smell of food. The incident reignited discussions about the risks of human-wildlife encounters, especially in regions where natural habitats intersect with human activity. The tragic death of Dave Thompson became a grim reminder of nature's unpredictability and the fragile line between coexistence and conflict. His story, which spread widely in the following weeks, served as a cautionary tale for all who venture into the wild. It calls for respect for the powerful creatures who call the wilderness their home, and to always breathe in the fresh autumn air with awareness and humility. From his current position, Adrian rounded the ridge and saw a shadow emerging from the trees below. It was unmistakably a grizzly bear. Its golden-brown fur shimmered over its sleepy muscles. For a moment, it seemed unaware of Adrian's presence. Its head lowered, sniffing the air. The bear stirred and rose onto its hind legs. Its massive body towered over the ground as it let out a deep, guttural roar that echoed across the ridge. The time for strategy had passed. The bear dropped to all fours and charged. Adrian turned and ran, fully aware it wasn't the best decision. His legs burned as he dashed down the slope. The terrain was uneven and treacherous, and his backpack felt like dead weight. The bear was closing the distance with terrifying speed. Adrian reached for his bear spray, struggling with the latch as panic raced through his mind. Before he could lift the canister, the bear barreled into him. The impact knocked the wind from his lungs and hurled him to the ground. The beast swatted at him, pinning him down with a massive paw. Its hot breath scorched his neck, and despair flooded Adrian's chest. Without thinking, he reached for the knife in his pocket. His fingers trembled as they found the handle. With effort, he yanked it free and blindly stabbed. The blade sank into the bear's shoulder. The beast roared in pain and recoiled briefly, but then it lunged again, sinking its jaws into Adrian's leg. The pain was unbearable, like molten fire searing through him. The bear thrashed its head, dragging him through the mud. Adrian's vision blurred, but he struck again with the knife, this time aiming for its face. The blade slashed its cheek, and the bear let go, growling and retreating slightly. Adrian saw his moment. He crawled to the nearest log and pressed his back against it, using it as a barrier. His hands found the bear spray. He finally pulled it from its holster and pointed it at the circling bear, which now moved low and threateningly, blood dripping from its wounds and staining the earth. Adrian raised the can, his hand shaking as he prepared to fire. But before he could pull the trigger, the bear lunged again, crashing into the log. The force knocked Adrian back, the canister flying from his grip. He tried to stand, but his injured leg gave out. The bear loomed over him, baring its teeth and glaring wildly. Adrian lifted the knife one final time, but his strength was nearly gone. The beast struck him with crushing force, and the world went dark. The search party found his backpack nearby, its contents scattered across the ground. Claw marks scarred the surrounding rocks. The grizzly was nowhere to be found. It had returned to the forest after the attack. Adrian's death shocked the park and the entire outdoor community. He was experienced, well-prepared, and cautious. But even that couldn't save him from the unpredictable danger of the wild. After the tragedy, the park administration urged visitors to be even more cautious when traveling in grizzly territory. They reminded people of the importance of traveling in groups, making noise to avoid surprise encounters, and keeping bear spray easily accessible. Adrian's story became a powerful reminder of nature's strength and the thin line between adventure and survival for those who dare follow in his footsteps. On a dry October day, Mark and Jason Keller were walking the perimeter of their family ranch nestled in the foothills of the Wind River Range. The brothers, aged 37 and 34, had grown up on this land, tending livestock and spending long days beneath open skies. They knew that life in this rugged terrain was full of dangers, but also full of awe-inspiring moments. Their lives were shaped by hard work and the serene beauty of the land. That morning, as the sun rose over the far pasture near the forest's edge, a forest that stretched for miles into untamed wilderness, they noticed something was off. Mark, dressed in an old shirt with a worn rifle slung over his shoulder, was the more cautious of the two. Predators rarely posed a serious threat, and the brothers carried pitchforks just in case. Jason followed behind, scanning the area for any signs of danger. The sheep, usually scattered across the gentle slope, had clustered tightly together. Their bleating was erratic and nervous. Mark stopped, squinting at the tree line. Suddenly, they saw a large black bear emerge from the undergrowth. Its sleek fur was matted in places with dried blood. It moved clumsily, its gait uneven. The brothers were surprised. Black bears were common in this part of Wyoming, but they rarely came this close to people, especially in daylight. The bear stumbled forward with its head low, as if disoriented. Mark frowned and whispered to his brother. They were worried about the livestock but didn't yet grasp the danger. The brothers began shouting. Their voices cut through the crisp air, and they banged their tools against rocks and fence posts in an attempt to scare it off. For a moment, the bear hesitated. It lifted its head and stared at them, but instead of retreating, it charged. Its posture shifted, ears flattened, and a low growl rumbled from its throat, echoing across the valley. Mark barely had time to react. The bear closed the distance like a freight train and slammed into him. He was knocked to the ground, his rifle flying aside as the bear's claws raked through his flesh. Mark screamed, a raw, primal sound, and struggled beneath the massive creature. Jason froze for a second, the scene before him like a nightmare. But instinct kicked in. He grabbed a pitchfork and lunged at the bear, driving it into its side. The bear roared, the sound thundering in Jason's chest, but it didn't back down. It turned its massive head toward him, eyes burning with a killing rage. Jason was thrown to the ground. The pitchfork slipped from his hands as he hit the dirt. Pain pierced his shoulder, but he forced himself to rise. Blood was flowing from his arm, but adrenaline pushed him forward. He grabbed the nearest rock and hurled it at the bear, aiming for its head. The stone struck the bear's skull, and for a moment, the beast recoiled. Mark lay motionless on the ground, his body ravaged, breathing heavily. Jason, swaying, staggered toward his brother, his gaze darting between Mark's mutilated body and the enraged bear. He grabbed a fallen branch and desperately waved it when the bear moved forward again. Despair fueled his every move, but the bear was relentless. Its wounds and hunger drove it to madness. The fight was at its peak, violent and chaotic. The ground around them was torn up. Jason's efforts only seemed to enrage the bear more. As the bear loomed over him, Jason clutched the trembling branch in his hands. He could feel the hot breath of the animal, the metallic scent of its blood mixed with his own. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the attack ended. The bear stood over Jason for a moment longer, its body heaving. Its eyes appeared glassy as it sniffed the air. All he could hear was their ragged breathing and the distant bleating of sheep. His heart sank as he looked into his brother's lifeless eyes, staring blankly at the sky. Jason placed a hand on Mark's chest, but there was no heartbeat, no sign of life. In that moment, realizing he was too late, Jason's vision blurred with tears. Despite his injuries, he knew he needed help. With great effort, he rose to his feet, clutching his bleeding arm, and began the long walk back to the ranch. The journey back was grueling, but the thought of warning others drove him forward. At last, he reached the ranch house and collapsed on the porch, his body refusing to obey from pain and exhaustion. At that moment, his wife called. They later found Mark's body not far from the pasture, with signs of a violent struggle. Jason was airlifted to the nearest hospital, where he underwent emergency surgery to repair damage from the bear's claws and teeth. He survived, but the physical and emotional scars would remain with him forever. Wildlife experts later concluded that the bear had likely been wounded during a territorial fight with another bear. This left it desperate and more aggressive than usual. Its exhaustion and lack of prey led to the fatal encounter with the Keller brothers. In the following weeks, discussions about wilderness safety and predator preparedness gained new urgency. Ranch owners were strongly advised to carry bear spray and create clear deterrent plans. Mark's death was a tragic loss and a heartbreaking reminder of the fragile balance between humans and the wild. For Jason, that day would remain etched in memory forever. He had watched his brother fight for his life, heard the bear's deafening roar, and realized that even the most experienced outdoorsmen were no match for the untamed power of nature.